Okay, so Nigeria's first political party was founded in 1923 by Abat Macaulay, and that political party was the Nigeria National Democratic Party. That party advocated for more indigents in the colonial government at that particular time. The second party was the Nigerian Youth Movement, and that party advocated for self-governance that we enjoy today. That simple issue just highlights the picture that the picture that we enjoy today, that the picture of our democracy, that political parties are integral to that. Accept or not, political parties are the gatekeepers of our democracy today. This is Conversation Ondo. You're welcome again. You've seen some of our episodes. My name is Akintoye. If you have not subscribed, subscribe now and like our content and share among your friends if you feel that what we're doing is reaching out to you. And that said, with us today is one of the biggest voices and influential politicians in Ondo State. He's the former director of media and publicity for the PDP. With us today is Mr. Zadok Akintoye. You're welcome, sir.
It's a pleasure to be with you on this studio.
Tell us about yourself and your work in the PDP, sir.
Like I said, my name is Zadok Akintoye. I was the former director of media and publicity for the PDP. I have been a Democrat and advocate for greater education and inclusion within the democratic space. I was the pioneer class captain for the International Republican Institute's Political Leadership Academy. I was the convener of What is Democracy? What is Democracy was a social platform for providing engaging education on democracy. And today, I am still a member of the PDP, and I'm glad to be with you in the studio.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. So what has been your work in the PDP? Like just a summary of what that work has been.
Okay, what I did in the PDP when I was appointed on the 2nd of June 2019 was to achieve three things. One was to redeem the image of the party. Number two was to promote the party as a positive brand that citizens could accept. And the third one was to ensure that the policy of the party within, at least in my contribution to leadership in the party, created greater access for young men, young women, and citizens in general. So I've been an interface between government agencies, media houses, and the political party. I've also been the voice of the party for the last 1 year before I stepped aside to take greater responsibilities within the PDP.
So what greater responsibilities do you have now?
It will be announced very soon.
Okay. Okay, so that said, let's start getting to the gist of what the crux of the conversation that we'll be having today. What roles do political parties play exactly, and why do they matter?
You know, the existence of political parties is by law, which means that you cannot, at least within the Nigerian context, as at now, you cannot ascend into into an elective position without a political party. And so political parties are the doorways between the citizens' desire and aspiration to be included, yes, and the eventual government that is formed. So without a political party, there can't be no politician, and without politicians, there can't be no aspiration, and without aspiration, we can't have government. So a political party is the key reason why, or the key organization that ensures that citizens' aspiration and the need for continuity in government is brought together.
So if that is exactly how much power that it has, and we established earlier in saying that political parties are gatekeepers, let's use the Ondo context for example. Only about 30% of the voting population of Ondo State that were registered to vote at that time voted in the last election. And that 30% will most likely politically active individuals and not taking the rest of the population into context. That reality that most Nigerians do not participate, especially young people, which is another glaring fact. That reality, why does this reality exist, and how is your party responding to this reality?
It's a complex thing, and I would seek your indulgence to explain it from
the beginning.
Nigerians don't have a buy-in into the Nigerian project. Nigerians don't have a full education and understanding of their roles, or let me say it more subtly, that Nigerians just don't believe in the Nigerian nation, because you'll find that the key important decisions or actions that need to be taken to ensure that those who will lead the rest of us, or those who will have that power of administration over our commonwealth, that key decision, most people are not bothered about it. And so you find that at the end of the day, most Nigerians just don't come out to vote, or most Nigerians have to pursue their desire for their daily bread to the point where they don't bother. The larger majority of those who bother, or a sizable portion of those who do eventually bother to vote, are coming to vote because there's a commercial aspect to the voting itself. We have not created the Nigerian. It exists as an idea. It doesn't exist as a tangible, physical human being, because we have accepted to be Nigerians because of independence. And we are more Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, Efi, Kibibio. We are more aligned towards our ethnic lineations than we are towards our national identity. And so that has created a problem. People just believe that election is a process. Whether we vote or not vote, things will still be the way they are. So people don't have a buy-in. That's the thing that we need to solve. And that's why I keep saying that young people like you and I, as a duty, must join a political party. Because the longer we stay outside of participating in the process, or being in charge of the process that you culminates in who becomes the leader of our society, the faster we participate, the better for the rest of us. Area boys, touts, illiterates participate in politics. A few intelligent people participate in politics. People that have leaning towards violence also do participate in politics. But you find that those who have the brains, those who have the heart, those who have the understanding, will rather sit down at home arguing, discussing, debating without participating. Your debates, your arguments, your discussions outside of participation is zero.
So how is your political party responding to those
Inclusion,
realities?
that's what we've done. Look, I came into the party on the 2nd of June, and one of the things I've been canvassing in my public discussions is that young people should join, whether you want to join my party, which I would prefer, or you want to join another party.
Okay, so the dynamic that the conversation that you're taking into is saying is we are not participating. Yeah. But I'm saying, are you calling out? Are you calling us out enough?
That's why I said we are. Why we may not have some of the instruments to do that effectively because of the distractions of this election, I can assure you that the PDP has a post-election plan to talk to young people, to bring young people into the party, because we believe that the future of this party is dependent on the number of young people that we can include into the system. And that's what we are doing now. We can't do that as effectively as we should because of the distraction of the coming gubernatorial election. But we have that plan that post the election, we will use the next couple of years before the next election to mobilize and bring people into the party. We are going to go to the universities. We also expect that once we take the lead, other political parties like the SDP, like the Zenith Labour Party, the APC too, should do that, because it will be in the best interest of the Nigerian state if we bring young people like you into it.
Okay, so I think let's zero in on Ondo State. You've mentioned a couple of times. How is PDP preparing and moving and approaching this election?
First and foremost, as a political party in a democratic society, we believe that the people matters most. So there is no plan you make that must excise the people from itself. So our focal plan is to go to the people in the grassroots, go to the people in the big places, make sure that the brand we are selling, the PDP brand, is a positive brand that they can accept. And that's helping us. And we will win the election.
Okay, so the thing that is recurrent in the themes that you have raised is that word participation.
Yes.
Okay, so the thing that is recurrent in the themes that you have raised is that word participation.
Yes.
But yet, we still discover that violence and rigging, which are two terrible realities that disrupt participation, is still exist as tools in the toolkits of political parties
Yeah.
when they go into the electioneering process.
Yes.
Why does that still exist, and how should we begin to approach it?
On the coat of arms of Nigeria, there are four words: justice, peace, progress, and unity. I think there are four words. Without justice, there can be no peace. Without peace, nobody will promote unity. And what you see in Nigeria, where people go about trying to rig, is because Nigeria is largely an unjust society. When you see a young person who goes into advanced fee fraud, for instance, you may blame him for what he's doing, and it is blamable. But the truth of the matter is that what alternatives are you providing? So also within elections, rigging becomes the norm when political parties feel or have through experience understood that the vote of the people may not count. Rigging becomes the character of a society where injustice is entrenched. Rigging and electoral violence becomes the character of a society that is deeply unjust, deeply without empathy, and that has a lot of hypocrisy in it. If we all come to, and we keep saying election is just election. It's just for you as an individual to go and cast your mind, your vote. But people have to defend that, or people have to purchase that. People have to make allowances for huge amounts of money to get you to take a decision to come out of your house because Nigerians are not interested. And so elections become expensive. Elections become do or die.
So I think you touch a very salient needle there when you talk about say that the reason why this system is bad is because we do not participate.
No, not really because we don't. I will tell you what participation does. If I am in my polling unit and we live in a society, in a community, in my neighborhood, and we are all at least familiar with each other at the polling unit, it will be difficult for anybody to come into that polling unit to cause election violence because then the people can't stand their ground. But if there are just a few of us at the polling unit, it becomes easy. Political parties that are in power encourage voter apathy by selling the dummy that the election will be violent. They sell the dummy to citizens so that citizens don't participate. It is when you don't go to vote that someone can vote on your behalf. But if we all as citizens agree that this election is, when I say do or die, I mean do or die in terms of it is my right, I must cast it. And we come out to vote, then nobody can rig. Chifenkeo Abiola's election in 1993, who could rig it? The people came out to vote. If the people come out to exercise their franchise, nobody will be able to intimidate them at the polling unit. Imagine the polling unit with 1,000 people strong. How many people do 5, 10 people want to kill? You shoot one person, you know the 10 of you are dead. If the people stand their ground, there is no way injustice can be perpetrated on the people if the people are resolved to defend their mandate.
So that is the part isn't that participation what political parties don't want?
That's what
we
I
say
said.
we want. They say they want it publicly, but in private they don't
Look,
act like they want it.
It's the incumbents, and I'm not saying this in reference to any specific political party, but I'm saying it generally. That is the incumbent government that usually does not want the people to go and vote. Opposition parties usually pray for people to go and vote because it is within that mass that they can defeat the incumbent. But the incumbent, having the instrumentality of government, usually does not want people to go and vote. There won't be electoral violence if we come out to vote. Electoral violence where? We know ourselves. Why would I fight you at my polling unit? So all incumbent parties promote electoral violence and rigging. We can only solve this if between two elections, all political parties are mandated to educate the people, to mobilize their supporters. You understand? Before elections. If we as a political party, PDP, have 2 million strong supporters in Ondo State, and of that 2 million, at any election, we can surely guarantee that 500,000 of them will go to vote. It will be difficult to defeat us. It will be difficult. It will be impossible to defeat us. But we need to do that between elections and make sure that we have a huge pile of PDP members.
Isn't that the reason why that hasn't happened is something that you spoke of earlier and say political parties wake up a few months and they go back to sleep?
It also has to do with leadership. Look, all political parties don't do more than 15% of their intended capacity from year to year. Because the people oftentimes that are in administration don't understand what are the roles, what are the responsibilities we have. And so they believe that politics, like several people have listened to conversations and people will tell you that politicians are this, politicians are that. No, that's not politics. Politics itself means public administration. Politics is not the character that we see of backbiting, of hypocrisy, of violence.
All of which are traditional human flaws that exist within other climes also. There are lawyers who have the same characters.
Absolutely.
There are doctors who have the same characters.
So that's
but why?
Politics.
One reason why that is amplified is one issue that we'll get into now, the issue of cross-carpeting. That is one of the issues that make that sentiment amplified. So let's talk about the current deputy governor port from APC to PDP to ZLP. What were the attendant issues around that port?
Let me go back to say that his journey did not start from the APC. He was a PDP member.
Okay.
From the PDP, during the period when he saw that the Dr. Mimiko-led administration was going to, had completed its 8 years, and the APC government at the national level had already been in power. He's a national politician. So he went with the national party and left the PDP where he had grown to join the APC. Now, while in the APC, he found himself, unfortunately, in a government where he's the deputy governor and there is an opportunity to contest. And he couldn't, in that same party, contest against his principal. If the opportunities had been there for him to have contested against his principal, for instance, if the national secretariat of their party had, in association with him, created the system where his principal would have been set aside for him, he would not have left the APC. So he looked at what's the next political party that has that strength, which obviously is the PDP, being the largest and strongest opposition party. He came to the PDP. So his journey was from the PDP to the APC, and then when he saw that he needed an opportunity to grow in line with his own ambition, he left that place for the PDP. But the PDP that he left to join the APC was different from the PDP he met, because the PDP that he left to join the APC was a party that had been winning elections, you understand, and that had lost some level of favor, so he left it. But by the time he came back to a PDP that had been out of government but had learnt his lessons and had built structures, had changed its character to ensure that the strength of itself as a political party was now domiciled in the people and not in one individual as a leader saying, oh yeah, this is how you should do it. So it came to a stronger PDP where the ethos and the principles of democracy had been enshrined. And I give you why. Look, before he joined the PDP, we had conducted our congresses. We conducted congresses at the ward level to choose the ward ESCOs. We conducted at the local government level to choose the local government ESCOs. We had completed these processes before he joined the PDP. We had only 2 congresses to do, which were the Congress for the national delegates and the 3 ad hoc congress, 3 per ward ad hoc congress to be done. Now, the 3 per ward ad hoc congresses were elective congresses that would determine those who would choose the governor. So he came just at about that time where we still had 600 delegates to choose, 609 delegates to choose, and then 18 national delegates to choose. The national delegates are usually national officers, senior party members who had risen, who are in situ within the party. So he couldn't influence that. So he looked at the opportunity of finding a way, knowing that he had lost out from the ward congresses because he wasn't a member of the PDP. He had lost out from the local government congresses because he wasn't a member of the PDP when those elections were conducted. But he joined the PDP at the tail end, just a day to the close of nomination, sales of nomination forms. And so he had the opportunity only of getting supporters in the ad hoc delegate election. So what he then did, unfortunately for him, was that by the time he was joining the PDP, most of the choices of who leads or who becomes what had been given to the party members. The state secretariat wasn't determining who is going to lead, who is going to become anything in any local government. It was the people from the local governments that would do their own election and then bring the list with everybody signing. So when he came to the PDP, he saw that he was now in a different political party, though he had been in the old PDP before. So he now came into a system that was people strong. And I mean people strong in terms of the fact that the decision of who leads has been given to the people. Now, what he then did was that the election that was held to choose the 609 ad hoc delegates, after he had bought pseudo forms from the national office, duplicate forms, and the system here could not allow him to use it, what he then did was to truncate that process by hijacking it between when the election was conducted here in Akure, in Ondo State, and when the report was to be given to them in Abuja, wherein he removed the names of about 115 duly elected ad hoc delegates of the party. I keep saying that he should stop blaming the PDP. What he should do is to realize that he underestimated the PDP he came into. He was now coming to a PDP that was totally democratic. So those whose names were removed rebelled against that action. Now, how can you, as a new party member, exercise such brigandage and tyranny by removing my name? So he created more enemies for himself. Rather than going to appease the people, appeal to the people to please support him, he felt that by removing their name and truncating the process of democracy could strengthen his chances. And he lost. I must put it on record that when the allegations became rife that he was going to leave the PDP, the leaders of the party approached him and appealed to him that, look, stay in the party. You acknowledge that the election that you lost and came second was a very free, fair, transparent process. So what are we chasing? Stay within the PDP. Obviously, he will be staying within the PDP as a leader of the party. But his personal objective of contesting was to look for what he assumed to be a vulnerable, weak party that he could ride on. That was why when he came to the PDP, his marketing point was to try to divide the PDP along ethnic lines. He couldn't come to the PDP to define or to market his competence as an individual or his stature as a politician. He came to the PDP himself and a few disgruntled members that had left the APC prior. He didn't come to the PDP with any strength.
Should it be something that we should be worried about? And what are the causes, what are its effects, and what kind of regulation will be sufficient to attending to that?
There can be regulations to attend to it, except we all agree that...
So regulations by law, regulations by that?
There can be. Why I said that is that except we decide that the fundamental right of a human being to choice of association, it can't be by law. It must be by a conscious development of a culture hinged on an ideology.
Isn't culture built on a foundation of rules?
You build culture on a foundation of rules defined, generally agreed to. We are Yorubas. It is known that in Yoruba land, we prostrate to greet elders. It's a culture that is generally agreed. We are born into it. So that's how culture evolves. Within political parties, there is one culture, political interest. Interest defines virtually everything that is done in political parties.
Not the people.
Not the people. Interest defines what is done in political parties. The politics that we play is interest defined. Now, what we should be doing as political parties ties with what I said about political parties doing their role to the general majority of our people between elections. We must begin to build a culture. Look, in the PDP that I belong to, there are individuals that have been in the PDP since 1998. There is nothing you can give them, even in poverty, that will make them change their opinion to be members of PDP. It's become a culture. We need to translate this to other political parties where we are building culture.
So what are the causes of that culture and what is the effect of the culture?
In a poor society, I've said this severally on several radio programs.
Yes.
Poor democracies, poor societies build poor democracies. criminal societies build criminal democracies. The democracy in any society is dependent on the culture, custom, tradition, language, and belief of the people.
Is there still hope for the Ondo people?
There is hope for Ondo, because the advantage that we have in Ondo State is that we have a largely moral society that just needs leadership. We have a largely moral society that is easy, very easy, to acculturate towards positive things, that just needs leadership. So we need to also have a political pandemic that forces us. And I remember the American ambassador saying one thing, and maybe this might suffice. He said, to change your country, the people must make politicians lose election consistently. If we create a culture where every incumbent governor knows that the people will not praise him in government while he's in government because he's doing what he's statutorily expected to do, that we come to a point where people say, when you come to Ondo, the people don't accept sycophancy. That culture will help to change and shape the mindset of political leaders.
It will be that.
It will really, and that's
it will be the political pandemic we're looking for. It will be the
political pandemic we are talking about. That's
okay, so let's move forward and let's talk about another independent candidacy, sir. Is that something we need, and are we ever going to get there?
It won't be a bad idea to have independent candidacy. It won't be a bad idea. Let good people come and rise to power on their capacity and on their track record. But it's going to be difficult. Why I said it's going to be difficult is independent candidacy cannot be done in isolation from healing the society. We must come to a point where the moral value of the society is also pepped up. Look, in elections, political parties, and I say this without exception, political parties have to plan huge amount of funds to direct it at encouraging people to come out and vote. So an independent candidate has a lot of work to do, because the electorate is going to largely does not care about your capacity, does not care about your morals. The larger proportion of people that go out, it's not that we don't have good people in the society, but the good people don't participate.
So why you think independent candidacy cannot happen for us now? Is
I'm not saying it can't happen. What I'm just saying is that if it happens, it cannot happen and succeed in isolation. It must be complementary. You build the religious moral value of the society such that when somebody comes out, you know this man is good. Why don't you vote for him? Gani Fahemi was a very good man who gave his life for the people. Did we vote for him?
Is that a position political parties will contest? So I'm trying to measure what will be the response of political parties.
I can tell you for the PDP, for instance, if government decides to legislate on independent candidacy, we won't have a problem with it. The only thing is exactly what I'm telling you now. We would advise government on what it should do. It's not just about legislation. It's about rebuilding the Nigerian society. Before you can have an independent... Look, who is probably one of the most moral people in our society? Let's say, Khadija Adeboye, the General Overseer of Redeem. If he comes out today to contest to be president of this country, he might get substantial votes. He won't get 100%. He won't get 90% of votes from the Redeemed Christian Church of God. But he will get a substantial quantum from that. But he won't win. Not because he's not capable, not because we don't know that he's morally able and competent, not because we don't know that he's pious enough to do the right thing, but because this is Nigeria.
So one of the realities of this is Nigeria is the fact that parties, especially the ruling party, seem to hold maximum power in any democracy. In Nigerian context, for example, INEC is supposed to be independent, most likely is really not independent when it comes to accessing resources to launch whatever it needs to do to ensure democracy. Judiciary and security systems are always loyal most times to the ruling party because of, for whatever reasons. The National Assembly would not want to take chances because of the political intricacies involved. And this is, and that ultimate power that they have allows there to be a certain level of unaccountability to the people. So there is no system to make parties accountable because they are the highest people, they are the highest. So, and if parties are not accountable to the people, Isn't that the reason why they have to come back? Because there are two ways to
You're
get
right.
I'm coming, sir. There are two ways to get loyalty. You can either buy loyalty or you can earn loyalty.
Yes.
So in the places where you have not earned loyalty, is that not the
Right.
reason why they are buying
You have to buy.
loyalty? So that is just something on the side. But the question around that is what is the impact of this reality? Should we be worried? And what is the incentive to regulate and limit the power that political parties have by themselves?
We can't regulate the powers of political parties because they serve fundamental roles in society. You can't regulate it. They are like religious organizations serving political interests. But I want to quickly say something. INEC is independent. What is not independent about INEC are the people within it. Constitutionally, the law has stated the right of INEC. What is not independent in INEC is the moral value of the people within it.
You keep going to this thing of moral value. It keeps reoccurring.
Look, if you are in a society where you are an umpire, an electoral umpire, and you have run that system in such a way that you don't have any criminality on your hand.
Do you not agree that there are structural systems that limit morality? So there are systems that exist structurally within.
Let's situate this back in INEC. What is the structural challenge that gives INEC the right to alter the result of an election taken by the people? It's not the duty of INEC to check the morals of the people. It's not the duty of INEC to check the religion of the people or their preferences. The duty of INEC is to conduct the election, let everybody vote, tabulate the vote, and then announce it. Why would INEC? INEC as an organization will not alter, but individuals in INEC will alter because morally they can be bought. Their very existence can be bought with money.
Let's now say, what is your party engagement? Because that is where it comes down to. Because regardless of whoever is elected, that person is still answerable to the party, even if he's the leader of the party at that particular time. So what has been your party engagement with elected candidates historically? And is that approach what you continue to take, or is that approach going to change?
It's definitely going to change. And fortunately, we have a candidate that's a consummate politician, a consummate administrator, and a very empathic individual. What our party intends to do, and will be doing, is to build structure and to strengthen the institution. That's why I said it here. I said if I was ODEC chairman, my governor knows that he won't come to me to say, Zadok, do this thing. Because even before we win, he knows what I will do, what I won't do. And look at a political party like PDP, allowing people like us to thrive. Not just thrive, giving us everything. They are trying to show the society that this is where we are moving to. We are moving to a new PDP where people listen and people can engage and people can talk and people can debate with power without fear. We must be able to do that.
So let's talk about your candidate a bit. It's no longer news that your party has picked your party candidate.
Mr. Ita,
yes, has picked Honorable AJAYI, representing Ogutukwari as his deputy. Yeah. So what was the political and strategic parameters that surrounded that decision?
I will not divulge that on camera, but it was a collective decision. It was a decision taken with consultation across all local governments. And some of the conditions that the leadership of the party, the elders of the party, placed down was that they will want a deputy governor. And the governor, obviously having picked a senior advocate and somebody who's accomplished in every field, who beyond being a governor is already honored nationally. We also wanted a deputy governor that will understand the processes for the recovery, the economic recovery of Ondo State. Akintoye, he's a pharmacist who studied both in Nigeria and abroad, and is somebody who has also been government at the national level, representing his people. And we wanted somebody who will understand the plans of government, who will also not become a burden. Governor, by immediately beginning consultations with his people, where he has not done rightly or where people have had questions, he has been, appealing to them. He has gone around, not because he wants to be deputy governor, but because he knows what should be done. because this is the PDP.
And we wish the PDP all the best.
Thank you so
So
much.
let's circle back to where we started from, the question of engagement. So we just round up there, and we'll thank you for your time. So how has your party in your messaging and programming engaged young people, and how can young people join your political party or join a political party?
To join, I'm going to use the PDP as an example. To join the PDP is so simple. One is that just go to your ward, or you can request from me. I can give you my phone number. We will just direct you to your ward chairman, who will then bring you in. You fill your form, they put your name in the register, and then they give you the party's membership card. You know the conditions of being a member is stated there. So that's all. And we want people to join the PDP.
Are there systems to do it digitally, or we have to do it?
There are systems to do it digitally, domicile that national. Yeah, I think there's an app for that. But like you have just said now, I will put this down in notes and then raise it, because I think that we should begin to digitalize membership of the PDP. Secretariat of the PDP in your local government, or look for any of our ward chapters and just join.
Okay, so the final question is, how has your party in your programming and your messaging, how are you engaging young people especially in the direction of this election?
It's just like what we've done on this interview. We've kept on talking to the people about, joining, and then avoiding using communication words that incite violence.
Beyond talk.
Beyond the talk, we have created a system for young people to see why they should be with us. For instance, you find young people handling various systems within the party. So young people are handling
various systems
within the party. Our volunteers are basically young people. Our social media team members are basically young people. The people handling our call center are basically young people. If you look at the proportion of young people to young people, I mean young men and women, to the older people managing systems within the party, except at the very top, where you still have people that have been elected to run the party. You'll find a ratio about 80 to 20 for people from 15 to 35 that are in the system. There are more young people running systems within the PDP than the older people.
You've heard this. This is Conversation Ondo. You've been following us. With us today is the former Director of Media and Publicity for the PDP. He's a new something now, but he says we'll know later. But that's about all that we can take on this episode of Conversation Ondo. The key message is simple today, that the only way you can keep political parties accountable is when you participate. My name is Akintoye. This is Conversation Ondo. We'll see you in the next episode. Remember, subscribe and share our content. Till later. Bye.